It's a beautiful Easter Monday, so happy Easter to all our viewers within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, those watching virtually from our YouTube and X platforms, and from wherever in the world you're tuning in. You're welcome to the show. I am Olive Emodi.
Most definitely. It feels good to be here. You know, I have to take it slowly. I always want to do the last person talking, but so like you know where I'm going.
You're not starting on the existing.
But I trust the guy on the left. He would definitely want to do it. You know, but it's okay. Welcome to Breakfast Central on a Monday morning. For those who are watching us from home, it's a holiday. I want to say well done and thank you for tuning in. We got great reviews, by the way, as well this weekend again. I was walking and someone said, "Hey, New Central," and I'm like, oh, "Okay, all right, okay, that's good." But then again, it also shows that Nigerians are, in quotes, let's use the Gen Z language, are woke of what is happening. Because a lot of people who I've been talking to this weekend, they are the young ones, so they're starting to be interested. Yes, they're interested with in news and current affairs. Benga. My name is Johansson, by the way. Thanks, and welcome to Breakfast Central.
And I'm Gbadebo, reaching you live from our brand new set, minted.
Rubber.
Yeah, I'm sure you
just tore it out of the rubber. In case you didn't know, you are watching New Central.
Exactly. Very aesthetically pleasing,
Absolutely.
I must say. It's been a nice weekend, well rested. Got many messages yesterday celebrating his reason. And it reminds me of one last year, the former Inspector General of Police. They put across, it was a message, Easter message put across, and they wrote to his reason. You would think he's the one that resurrected. But I'm glad that the Nigerian police
I can imagine that.
Switch it up. But welcome to Breakfast Central. It's Easter Monday.
It is Easter Monday, indeed. And I think that,
I know a lot of you at home today, so
absolutely.
Yeah.
we're not going to be so hardcore. Forget that we're wearing. Look,
you know what? I'm actually thinking.
What I'm wearing mentally is
yes.
just like this tie.
It's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
Start today's show with a little bit of good news, don't you think? The
Right,
good news, of course, will be Tunde Onakoya, who for the second time has won the Guinness World Records. He's broken the chess marathon record, and you know, just to look at exactly the fact that he's done it the same two times, and he's won it from the same two Norwegian brothers. So if you recall, he won the first one. It was 60 hours. He won it in the city of New York, Times Square. The whole of Nigeria gathered to support him. The Nigerians who were in America, they showed up urging him and praising him. And the previous records before he won the first one was 56 hours, 9 minutes and 37 seconds, was set in 2018 by the Norwegians, Halvard, Hug, Flatibo, and Sjøf Ekenstad. Now, his opponent in the first game was U.S. National Master Sean Martinez, and the fundraising goal for the first time was $1 million to support educational activities for underprivileged children in Africa, and was able to raise over $40,000 during the event. Now, we also saw figures like Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, musicians Davido, you know, several other celebrities lending their support. Now, these brothers then went and broke it again, and they broke it this time. He then had to come back to do the 64 hours of continuous chess play, surpassing his previous record. The same Times Square, the same opponent, U.S. National Master Sean Martinez. His fundraising goal was aimed to raise $1 million to build the largest free school for homeless children in Nigeria. We're not quite sure yet how much he was able to raise, but I think Tunde Onakoya deserves a round of applause. You know, he's done it twice over. It's not just to show you that it wasn't just chance. He did it the first time, he broke the record. He's done it again a second time to re-break the record because the record was taken from him. I mean, he's not just one of the world record holders that just do it because they want to make a name for it for themselves. You can see that Tunde Onakoya has done great work with chess in slums. He's given these children hope for a better life. A number of them who would not have imagined going beyond the shores of Lagos, Nigeria. Absolutely. They're able to go to different parts of the world to compete. You know, it's just really absolutely. I was there. I don't know if you can see me there.
Yes, Olive in the background. Yes, you are there in name. Photoshop supporting. You know, it would be a travesty of justice. Not even this year. I mentioned it last year and previous years. It's such in a society where there's a dearth of role models, positive role models. Tunde Onakoya stands as one. It stands out as one, as a model to look forward to in a world where people are promoting all sorts of degeneracy of TikTok and social media.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You know, Tunde Onakoya is a role model that
national honor.
yeah, he certainly deserves to be given as much honor as possible. And you know, here on Breakfast Central, we just want to say congratulations to him and to thank him for not just doing this to raise funds, but also showing to young people that they can dare to dream over and over again, and they can keep reinventing themselves.
Absolutely. It's one thing to also celebrate Tunde Onakoya. It's another thing to celebrate those whom he has, single-handedly helped them come out of the slump, and they've now become world champions. I mean, we've seen him put up posts about these young children. I saw one, and I was moved, from the heart. This young champ. He started off playing chess with him. You could see from the slum, the pictures tell the story, and now he became a winner as well, just like Tunde Onakoya. And I think he's not well celebrated, as I feel. I feel we're not celebrating him enough.
You know what?
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, okay, so why I think that it's not being celebrated is that unfortunately we had a flurry of Guinness World Record attempts. It feels like when Hilda Basi won the Guinness World Record, he redefined. I mean, there are people who had broken the Guinness World Records before now, Kafi and other people, but something happened. Something changed when Hilda Basi won. And it felt like the whole Nigerians and their moms and grandmoms, and even Ghanaians and their siblings too, wanted to break a Guinness World Record. So it felt like there was an abuse of Guinness World Record. I'm hoping we don't go back there. These are the kinds of records we need to be seeing, not the people that are breaking record for, how many, highest number. I don't want to call it.
Getting a treat for 7 days straight.
Yeah. Anyway,
ridiculous records being attempted to be broken.
But what about you guys? But you guys forgot this one.
Chef Dami. Please leave out.
No, did I mention it? You mentioned, did I say it?
Everybody knows that.
I love Chef Dami.
Why didn't say
even
anything?
had a security escort.
Yes, ma'am.
I love her. Mommy had fries with beans.
I love what she did.
You know the one I love the most? When she had her manifesto read out. And somebody said, oh shit.
So the truth is, she had the potential to do more. It's just unfortunate that people behind the scenes manipulated Chef Dami for their private game.
Okay,
she had the potential to be more and to do more.
No, she'll come back stronger.
Guys,
was she a chef? Is the first question.
Guys,
it's just like me now waking up today and saying, I want to go and break Guinness World. If I went to break Guinness World Record for talking, they would say yes. That's her career path. She talks for a living. But I now wake up and say that I want to go and break Guinness World Record for cooking, like being a chef. I'm not a chef. That's not my career path.
We really need to. Who's a chef? Define a chef.
You see that
the guys that even make noodles at night, the roadside, they will call themselves chefs. So
you see, the chef thing is a very sensitive conversation because it's even causing a stir in the social media space, because we're having a lot of food content creators that call themselves chef this and chef that. Some of them are self-taught or self-trained, and the ones who went to the schools, the culinary schools, are feeling insulted. Like, no, you are just a food content creator. There's a difference between a food content creator and a chef.
Food critic. There's this famous guy on social media.
Yeah.
He has this baritone. He speaks like he swallowed JBL. He has a deep voice.
Yeah.
What makes him a food critic?
I'm not going to involve myself in this.
Let's move on now.
Please,
Wake up conversations.
I'm not around.
Let's go straight to another story that's trending very quickly.
It's Easter and Jesus has died for our sins, so we can do anyhow.
Please, I beg you.
Anyway,
let's go to the next story.
Let's move on to the next story. A video again is circulating on social media space, and this time it's not really different from what we saw last week, where a police officer was crying and calling on the government to please come to their aid, and then he also was reporting them to the Almighty God, saying God will judge them for not having to help the police force to fight insurgency. Well, another one, it's a bit, not too clear. It's an amateur video. There it is. It's been circulating online, and he went ahead to say that you can see the military guy there crying out, saying that governments treat those who serve, the systematic neglect. He talked about how they're not getting the full support, and he said the fight against insurgency is political and so on. But let's take a listen. We must first of all apologize for the video. Not too clear, of course, like we said, it's an amateur video, but it's indeed circulating online. Let's take a look.
Thank you. Enough is enough. We are here. Enough is enough.
Thank you.
They are playing politics with people's lives. They go into this ground with that armor, with that ammunition. We have to cop this very particular area within a single of a second. I know what kind of us can do. Good to go. I know what kind of us can do. Good to go. How many parties are inside this bush? Good to go. They are playing politics with people. Big men are eating money at the above there.
Saying that we should not even do
that we should not go after them. That is for me. Okay. This is the full information for you people.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this is not the first time that we're hearing that they are playing politics when it comes to insurgency, insecurity, and the rise in different parts of Nigeria, because this is another video of a police officer, or better still, someone who indeed has put his life on the lifeline, in quotes, to ensure that he protects citizens, coming out to speak in front of the camera saying they are playing politics. We also had something similar, if you recall, last week and upper week, in short, when the governor of Plateau State came out to say, listen, this is a genocide. It has like an iota of, political undertone. And then you also had analysts who came out to say, this smells like politicking. And it makes me wonder, why would we do such? The man said they were sent out, no ammunitions given. And if you watch the video further, they said those that were going to actually attack and ensure that they leave the bush or the area, the insurgents, they were fully armed.
I mean, this is very heartbreaking. I mean, it's bad enough that you volunteered to serve your country with your life, and that you're not given the necessary equipment to help you carry out your duties. It's one of the biggest morale breakers. It's very disheartening. And for a uniformed personnel, the case of a mobile policeman that we saw in that video, to come out, he knows the ramifications of it. He will probably lose his job, because you're not supposed to come out and criticize your superior.
But what does that tell us if they're coming out now?
I mean, it's just their code of conduct. But what it tells us is the desperation, that he doesn't even care about his job anymore. It's a life and death matter. He has gotten to the top of it, and he can't hold on anymore. So it's a cry for help, and I hope the necessary authorities, I mean, you can give him an orderly trial. You don't have to dismiss him. We'll do the necessary, because it's just crying out for better welfare for himself and his colleagues in the front line.
I mean, look at what exactly this video is saying. Saying Nigeria government is playing politics with bandits, telling us not to go after them. Police officers speaks out fearlessly. This is not the first time that we've had a guest on the show saying that if they want to fight in security, in totality, they know how to do it. I do not think that this is something that should be tossed aside carelessly as, a random statement. It should be investigated into. Yes, the Nigeria's military architecture is set up in such a way that the subordinates cannot outrightly overtly criticize their superiors, as they stand a risk of being made to face, disciplinary action. But if he comes out, like my colleagues have said, it's a desperate cry, desperate attempts for help, and it should be looked into. It should be investigated. We don't want to keep putting people out there on the front lines without properly equipping them. We already have enough challenges when we're talking about Nigeria's insecurity, the proliferation of arms, our very porous borders, even the manipulation with which we're dealing with matters concerning insecurity. It's over the course of the years, and it's not today. You go back as far back as the Dasuki Gate. What has become of that? The monies that have been allocated to fight insecurity. So it's not today we've been hearing complaints from different pockets and different corners, and I think that it must be a holistic fight. The government cannot just be said to be fighting insecurity, but must have the political will and must be seen manifestly by all to be fighting insecurity. So our hearts go out to our military officers, to our policemen, who often have to put themselves on the line. Again, this then reminds me of the conversation last week when we talked about this, and how some of the reactions we're seeing was, but this is why we're protesting during the NSAS. These are some of the reactions we saw Nigerians saying that when the NSAS protests were ongoing, part of the cries were for the reforms of the police, to ensure that the police were adequately equipped, adequately paid, given remuneration that could take care of them and their families should anything happen to them. But we will continue to be a voice for the people, and the people in this case do involve the Nigerian police. We want better security for our country.
Okay, and to our last story in our wake-up conversations, it's Easter, and a man of God is telling Mr. President to stop playing God. Stop playing God. Bakari chides President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I mean, it's not just, it was firing on all cylinders in this interview. He wasn't just criticizing President Tinubu, he also criticized the National Assembly. He says it's becoming a haven for legislative rascality.
That was so sweet.
I mean, that's a very strong statement by Pastor Bakari, a haven for legislative rascality. And he has his point. Voice votes for something as serious as a state of emergency, the Senate President being a judge in his own case. There's a whole litany of offenses they've committed or grievances that might have forced him to make this statement. He also said some leaders are turning Nigeria into a mafia state. That's from the serving overseer of the Citadel for Global Community Church, CGCC, Pastor Tunde Bakari. Yesterday x-rayed the state of the nation and urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to stop playing God in the affairs of Nigeria. While he expressed worry that Tinubu's administration...
Yeah. I think maybe...
Okay, let's listen to him.
Citizens, at the center of this political banditry is the motor park brand of politics, nurtured by the old brigade politicians, and in recent times by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. President, it is through your influence that the Nigerian National Assembly has become a haven for legislative rascality. Mr. President, it's under your watch that the National Assembly has become an extension of the executive, grossly violating the principles of separation of powers and rubber stamping the whims and caprices of your office, all while singing the international anthem of psychoviolence on your mandate, which shall stand. Mr. President, thanks to your political machinations, Nigeria is now bedeviled by a captured National Assembly, the most ineffective in its checks and balances role since the start of the Fourth Republic. In 2006, the Fourth National Assembly had the audacity to reject the tenure exemption bid of a sitting president. In 2010, the Sixth National Assembly summoned the courage to stand against the power hijacking cabal and restore Nigeria to the path of constitutionality by invoking the doctrine of necessity. In 2011, the House of Representatives of the Seventh National Assembly had the courage to elect its leaders, as did the Senate of the Eighth National Assembly in 2015, defying executive interference. This National Assembly, the 10th, has by its unconstitutional endorsement of the President's abuse of powers proven to be the most spineless in our recent history. Through its actions...
Very hard-hitting discourse by Pastor Tunde Bakari, and quite frankly, a lot of Nigerians would agree with him. There's evidence to back up all the things he said about legislative...
It's one thing to agree with him.
And all of that.
A lot of Nigerians are also not agreeing with him, because in 2012, he and the current president and other notable Nigerians marched and protested against Goodluck Jonathan Ebele's administration concerning subsidy removal. He was a very vocal person who spoke at the protest. And people are wondering, okay, this subsidy now has been removed and the hardship is even worse. It could have been averted. You have not marched onto the streets yet. Why? Maybe.
So are we saying that because he protested against President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan at the time, that he cannot now speak against what he's seeing President Bola Tinubu to do? Because that seems to be our way of analyzing things, to say, oh, but he supported them before, why can't you speak? Because the truth is, at the time, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not in power, he wasn't in office. So he was speaking against the government of the day because he wasn't satisfied with the quality of governance that he's gotten. And he's a Nigerian who's being governed, whose life is being affected by the policies and the decisions made by the government of the day. So he's well within his right to be able to call out any administration from President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan to Buhari to Tinubu and even the next one. He's right, so long as he's able to speak within facts. And another thing I see is whenever he gets to speak, the next thing we hear is, oh, it's because he lost elections.
No, they've replied. The presidency has replied him. The presidency just replied him. I mean, it's in one of our front pages today, and they told him, oh, we've heard, but we're not going to. They did not. They said they're not going to join issues with him. They're not going to, like, you know, kick back like they do the others. He's not the only one who spoke. Atiku spoke yesterday. Not just Atiku. Apart from him, Atiku, you also, that's a former Vice President Atiku, Laji Atiku spoke. He spoke. You also had the popular cleric who was recently given an appointment by President Bola Ahmed. Yes, he also spoke yesterday. And a strong statement he made in this sermon while he was preaching was that, I mean, according to the transcript, he said that the current president is running a motor park, you know,
we heard
administration. Yes, the politics is motor park. You know, it's basically like, in other words, in quotes, it's toutish.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly what we've seen play out one way or the other. Whether we like it or not, we just have to hit the nail on the head. But like I said, while watching that video, in terms of looking at what he said while reading and seeing the reactions of Nigerians, a cross-section of Nigerians feel that, no, you don't have the merit to come out and say that, because if you had allowed the subsidy to have been removed in 2012,
I mean, it's not,
we wouldn't be here now.
It's just one
It's understandable.
And there's so many respected Nigerians that came out in that protest.
Of course.
But, you know, politicians will have a way of labeling it as, they thought, look, the government was wasting a lot of money then, we could still afford that subsidy, should have reversed to status quo. And that's what happened. So we can't be stuck in the past. We're dealing with present day Nigeria. Whatever happened in the past stays in the past. It doesn't, like Olive said, it doesn't demerit, it doesn't reduce the value of what he has to say. Let's look at the message itself. And my concern is also about the National Assembly. He compared it to past assemblies and is saying that this is just a complete rubber stamp that does anything at the whims and caprices of the executive. And he's also mentioned that thing. I used to think I was the only one that thing affected.
No, it
desecrated the chambers of the National Assembly.
How does the president come to present?
It's not APC Assembly.
President comes to present budget, and the next everybody starts saying your mandate.
Led by the Senate President. I mean, this was, he said, international anthem of psychophancy. Yeah. What did he use? And it's right. Let's hope
it wasn't a good look.
They take this feedback in good.
I mean, I can't remember the British Parliament where, you know, they try to present a budget or the communists here, and then they stand up and they leave what actually has brought people together, which unites, which is, of course, you say it's a unity. And then you leave it, and then you take a song that is not part. These are conversations. But I also feel that while he was talking, another point that we should also look at is the fact that the former President Muhammadu Buhari, had removed subsidy in May as well before he left office. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody has called the former president to question that. But wait, you announced to Nigerians that you had removed subsidy. How come it is in 2023 that the current president also came again and said subsidy is gone? So how many times has Nigeria removed subsidy? You see, these conversations, as long as they are not being addressed, we would continue to ride and dance in a limbo, whether we like it or not. Well,
these are, of course, the stories we're starting this morning off with, and you can let us know your thoughts about them. First of all, the first Tunde we spoke about is the Tunde winning the Guinness World Records for the second time, again, breaking records. And from one Tunde to another Tunde, the second Tunde, criticizing the government of the day, talking about how the current administration is running motor park politics. And, you know, on your mandate, which shall stand being the international anthem for sycophants. So many other criticisms he leveled against the government of the day. And we wrapped up, of course, we did talk about the police officer who complained about how they're playing politics with the fight against insecurity, how they're asking them not to go against the bandits. And we continue to always talk about these challenges that we face when it comes to the fight against insecurity. But you can share your thoughts with us at News Central TV on all platforms, or you can tweet at us individually. Now let's share with you what the top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Christian faithful and just, the Plateau State capital on Sunday celebrated the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the essence of Christianity. News Central's Chizoba Anyongwe in this report tells the mood of residents in Plateau State amidst the recent killings in Bokos and Basa local government areas of the state.
This is the mood for the congregation at the St. Gabriel's Catholic Chaplaincy, 551 Nigerian Air Force Base, Jos, on the celebration of Easter. While they express joy and the hopes the resurrection of Jesus Christ brings at this Easter Mass, the swing of life is different for these victims of the recent Bokos and Basa killings, counting their losses, saying joy is far from them.
There is no how I can celebrate Easter because I am having pains in my heart. I cannot celebrate Easter. The only thing I can do is to just pray, that's all. Apart from that, I cannot do anything again.
My people, where they die, my brother there inside with my mother there inside. If I see people now only cry, they call they cry. Maybe people help me. With this Easter, why people they do, I don't even know where that Easter did.
We have been experiencing killing, but this one was different. So we call this Easter celebration as one of the darkest or most painful Easter celebration.
With the recent visit of Nigeria's Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abubakar, that of Humanitarian Affairs, Nentawe Yowada, Governor Caleb Mutfwang, among others, and the assurances there is hope of a secured plateau once again.
The state government and the different stakeholders are on this to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Everything and machineries have been put in place by the security agencies to ensure that people are protected.
I want to assure you that by the grace of God, we are determined more than ever to make sure that no innocent blood is shed on the plateau.
While these words are waiting to materialize into actions, these victims here are still in shock and call for assistance from all and sundry for a better life. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyongwe.
You're welcome back. Now, rising tensions in PDP as Tinubu's second term backing sparks debate. There's been more political storm brewing in the People's Democratic Party as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's second term endorsement by major party leaders ignites fiery debates.
That's right. Well, the endorsement by Akwa Governor Umar Eno last week and that of embattled suspended Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara urging support for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his recent Easter message has sent shockwaves through the PDP, raising questions about loyalty, party unity, and the future of Nigeria's opposition politics. Well, this is what's been happening so far, and everyone is indeed wondering if the PDP is still ready and set to be an opposition party. Well, the unprecedented endorsement Akwa State Governor has also come under fire, looking at the fact that he's been the one who also spoke at a recent outing. But then again, let's see if we can actually have this conversation in full. We do have the Deputy National Youth Leader of the PDP who joins us first before our next guest also comes in. We do have Tim Osadolo who will join us for this conversation as well. Let's start with you first. Good morning and thank you so much for being here.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Very interesting. Well, this is rather worrisome, especially as we hear for some PDP members. And what do you make of the current situation where you do have your own party members in whom you look up to, especially the chieftains and the likes, canvassing and throwing support, especially to the current president for a second term?
You see, there was a popular aphorism that said, first, they came for the capitalists, I didn't speak up. Next, they came for the masses, I didn't speak up because I was the masses, blah, 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 blah. They now came for socialists until they came for me and there was no one to speak up. You see, this government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC has mastered the craft of weaponizing state institutions against perceived forces capable of challenging its authority and capable of throwing it out of power if they unite. So when you see senior opposition figures, so to speak, singing the lovely melodies and tunes that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his enablers want to hear, for the undiscerning mind, it creates a lot of tension and it creates a lot of fear. Well, for most of us who knows better, we know that these tunes and these melodies are only meant for the entertainment of the president's ears and consumption only. Because the right tunes that Nigerians want to play and Nigerians want to hear will be played during the ballots casting on COP 2027. So all of these are not things that hardened politicians should take to heart, because at the end of the day, if these people don't sing these tunes and they don't survive till the next election, what will be the fate of their government? We saw what happened to Fubara. Heavens did not fall. All 8 out of 10 senior lawyers in this country, even the NBA, came outside to say, oh, illegality, oh, no. Where are we today?
Okay,
we saw what the governor of Edo did with elected local government chairmen, and how he took councillors to run the 18 local governments of the states. Till today, the Attorney General of the Federation that went to court to go and talk about local government autonomy, what has he said? What has he done? You see, this government, one has to learn how to survive with it without even becoming part of it. That is what I think these people are trying to do. But I know deep down, the most or one of the strongest PDP states in the history of this country since 1999 is Akwa Ibom State. And at any rate, is there any state the governor will just make a state declaration and he will say, oh, fellow citizens, on Friday or Saturday is poll, back by 6 p.m. or 6 a.m., wear your shirt, queue up, go and vote for Mr. A or Mr. B. Are they obese? Nigerians know what they want. The party itself knows what it's doing. So be rest assured.
Okay.
This deal of endorsements, you will hear more. Jonathan had much more than this. Much more was done than this. But we saw what his own national chairman did to him when the elections came. So forget about this melodies that they are singing for Tinubu for them to survive.
Now, Mr. Osudolo, you said you dismissed the endorsement, saying at the end of the day, Governor Eno has just one vote. But for people watching out there, millions of Nigerians, they will think, is there no internal mechanisms for party discipline within the People's Democratic Party? Are there no consequences for disloyalty in your party? And as your party lost control over its members, you see governors openly endorsing the ruling president. You've also seen serious anti-party activities by senior members of your party. Is there no disciplinary measures or consequences for disloyalty within the PDP?
In a very same climate, where the rule of law works, and people think naturally and rationally. The truth is this: things like will be said to be anti-party, things like this will command the big stick be wielded. And things like this is a misnomer. But we live in a climate. If we not so okay, for political correctness and political righteousness, what Fubara said, let's stream aside. What the governor said, let's stream aside. If this president of Tinubu that has defied all legal was set up to run Russian across board. If he says, oh, Governor, and I ever suspend you, sure, all the PDP members will not put Governor on our shoulders and want to say, no, you must finish your second tenure or you must finish your tenure. Just the way we have said Governor Fubara must finish his tenure. I have said political correctness, political smartness, and strategizing for tomorrow. They are all issues for different times. This is not the time to start saying, no, we must stand. It is time for us to dig deep and know how best to not only survive, because we must first survive to be able to take a decision on what to do with the president who comes to 27. So first, I don't fancy these governors. These are adults, these are men with families, these are men with children, and these are men with responsibilities, speaking and singing tunes, discordant tunes at that. But at the end of the day, if they don't survive, will they be useful to the party? Will they be useful to the country? No. Emotions aside, this government does not understand the rule of law. This government has shown that it can do anything. The followers at the National Assembly, I will not call them senators, the followers at the National Assembly has told us, Nigerians, that if this government even wants it, they will give it to him. Has Nigerians done anything about those comments by Babio and his friends? Nobody has said anything about that. But that's a tool, that was an alarm that Nigerians should have taken seriously. Now, we are aware, when we had the likes of Justice Begori and Kutigi and all such on the bench, you are sure that if you go to court or you go to go to seek for reprieve at the judiciary, you know that these justices will speak fire to your case and say it as it is and go home. But I don't know. She started hearing of thousands of dollars, $300,000, $100,000, $1 million flying for senators, reps, and governorships, securing victories. Things are not the same. Time was when we had justices that we moved seconded to countries like Liberia and some other African countries because the integrity of our bar and bench and judiciary was top notch. Can we move seconded anybody not to a faith state like Sudan? They will not accept it because they will ask on which authority and which integrity will respond to their country. You will not wonder, you will not ask, those justices of yore, were they extraterrestrial human beings? No. It is a system that has bastardized these characters into what they have become today. So, my dear brother, I, Timothy Sadalo, I will not be part of any NWC decision to sanction anybody because I know better and I know that when the time is right, we will sit down and collectively will send a message.
All right. Would you say that the party, the People's Democratic Party I'm speaking about here, has done enough to reconcile the grievances of members in the past? You recall that there have been several instances where members of the People's Democratic Party have voiced disagreements either with their voices or their actions. You remember the G5. Even in the most recent times, the Lagos State gubernatorial candidate for the People's Democratic Party also voiced his concern about how the party didn't stand behind him, of course, talking about Bode George, openly supporting the Labour Party presidential candidate or Labour Party's candidate. So would you say that the People's Democratic Party has done enough by itself to reconcile the internal grievances within the party of members, past, present?
You see, our Lord God, who created the heavens and the earth, even in his kingdom, there was a record that there was violence. So there was rebellion. So it means that there is no perfect system, either in heaven or on earth. Yes, I know the PDP has made myriads of mistakes. And I can also tell you, so long as an institution peopled by people, we are still prone to make more mistakes. The only thing we will do is to make all conscious efforts not to make mistakes that are avoidable and mistakes that will cost us our reputation. You see, when the likes and characters of Jaidon or Jaidon, that Lagos governorship candidate first emerged, some of us were not fooled by the paparazzi around him and those that tried to polish him and sell him. But you always hear party is supreme. Party is supreme. He was trying to blame the elder statesman, a body judge, who had not hold brief for in any way. But the question should be, what did he do to help the party and to help himself? Did he win his polling unit? Did he win his local government? Did he win his ward? That's a man who wants to be governor of Lagos State. The party machinery in the state that he became leader of automatically by being governorship candidate, which is the convention of the party. What did he do to energize that platform that he met? The way he emerged through a whole lot of discord into the party in the state, what did he do to reconcile? The young man that was supposed to be to deputize him, who was made to step down for him, what did he do? He threw him overboard for an entertainer that he said, oh, we bring Nollywood votes. I don't know how many people watch Nollywood, but I know that 80% of those who watch Nollywood do it for entertainment. I will not want those kind. And with all respect to everybody there, we may not want most of them to decide their future. So the truth is this: yes, there are seeming discord in the PDP. Akwa, when we made mention of the G5, it did affect the electoral fortunes of the party. Yes, but I think the party has gone far above that point now. Where is the G5 today? Today we have a governor Sheyi who was not only returned, but who was one of the most strongest members of the G5 then, though. Because amongst all the G5 members, aside Governor Wike and Governor Sheyi, the remaining three were just let's be five, let's call them and join us. These are people who could never win senatorial elections in their states, even as still incumbent governors. Governor Otom lost woefully his senatorial ambition. Governor, the one from Enugu, lost his senatorial ambition. Ikmi Azu, the one that did 5 shoes, that took people to China to bring 5 shoes, he lost his senatorial ambition. Today, where are they in the history of their, in the politics of their states? They are not forces or names you can even use to look for councillorship. That is because.
All right, let's come in now. I mean, we've talked about the challenges in the party and so on. Let's address the youth in the party. I mean, you're a national youth leader. Can you share with us here? And would like if your comments can also be very brief, so that we can get some more out of this interview, please. Could you share with us if the youths still have confidence in the Atiku-led, bid to become the presidential candidate of PDP? Do the youth arm, do they still have trust in that same process, or are they looking to look for someone else? That's one question I want us to touch on now. Let's focus on the youth and also the aspect of the entire party.
First and foremost, the PDP youths, we must commend them. It's not easy playing opposition for 8 years and running. Yes, along the line of these 8 years, many are about to get tired, many are about to be weary, and many are about to be nervous. But the truth is this: we believe in our hearts that the leadership of the party will not disappoint in taking its decision when it comes to who the flag bearer of the party is. The mandate of the party is not built around Atiku Abubakar or any individual. So what happens is that it is when you go for primaries, the delegates from the 36 states, including the FCT, endorses a particular person via voting. It is that person that emerges that becomes the standard bearer of the party. So the youth wing, the women wing, and the support groups of the party has no choice then, therefore, but to keep behind the position, the flag bearer, and go to all nooks and kind of the country to market it. Yes, there's some certain youths particularly are not so keen on the Atiku Abubakar experiment anymore. But again, like I started with, it is not about an Atiku, it's about the PDP. So if the PDP present an Atiku, even when you are not happy or I'm happy, it's immaterial. We now have a duty to go and market and deliver the candidate of our party, and PDP youth will rise to the occasion.
Okay.
Now, there's been, speculations, rumors, whatever you call it, in the grapevine, saying that the PDP is about to implode. There are rumors of the governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oborevori, Governor Peter Mba, and even Governor Eno and Governor Siminalayi Fubara of River State are rumored to be moving to the APC. Have you heard anything of such, and how credible? They say there's no smoke without a fire. And people have said we've seen a lot of state capture in this administration. What do you make of this? Have you heard anything about this rumored move to the APC by PDP heavyweights?
First and foremost, we must give PDP her flowers. PDP is the only guy standing in the past 25 years on the political horizon of Nigeria. All other political parties share less than 10 years of political existence. The PDP is doing 26 years of its existence this year. So we must first acknowledge the fact that PDP has come a long way. This is a party that has seen presidents, not governors, presidents. In fact, one of the biggest and most successful presidents in the history of Nigeria, of the PDP extraction, General Olusegun Obasanjo, has formally declared from this party. This party did not include. The former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has defected from this party with 7 prominent figures, including Governor Amechi, Bukola Saraki, and all others. The then G7. This party did not include. We saw a G5 that formerly worked against this party. Party did not include. So rumors of implosion will always be there, but I can tell you for free. Not what happened to PDP. It's like Rock of Gibraltar, where the sea waves will come and hit and will go back to still be there.
All right. As we wrap up the conversation, again, I want to bring you back to the talks of merger. There are no confirmed reports about the possibility of a merger, but there are members of your party who believe that a merger should happen if the PDP will be able to stand as a formidable opposition in order to overthrow the All Progressives Congress at the next elections. Do you share the same sentiment, or you're completely against the possibility of a merger?
I share the belief deep in my heart that one single individual, one single party, one single character cannot defeat the machinery the APC has turned into, they has turned itself into. You need a broad coalition. Then if a merger wants to take place, fine. But you need a coalition of leading opposition figures to come together and agree that, guys, we must work together to be able to wrestle power. Then if a merger wants to take place, all the more, all the better. But to say one political party wants to go it solo, then you must not only make that statement, you must go to the 734 local governments of this country and do mass sensitization and mobilization of voters. Because recall, sir and madam, the last election, less than 30% of the total registered voters of this country participated. So the remaining 70%, if any party can get 20% of those voters to itself, or even 25% of those voters to itself, that party can win. But with the current state of things and the voter apathy amongst Nigerians, who tells you their vote will not count, who tells you, oh, look at what happened in Edo, Look at what happened in Ondo. I don't want to go and vote. My vote will not count. With the more voter apathy in the system, it makes room for rigging very, very easy. If voters turn out en masse to insist and vote, rigging will not be there. Then these talks of merger may not be there because Nigerians will vote and they will vote along their preferences. But until such a time, with those that are already traditional voters, I believe a coalition of the dividing figures, which is the leaders that they have divided them into small units, they must coalesce so that you can have a block vote big enough to kick out this current system.
All right. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Osadolo, for speaking with us. And we look forward to have you again. Maybe this time we'll be taking a look at a different angle. And hopefully, like you've also said, nothing will happen. That's got to do with those who are in your party. But for us here, we'll be waiting to see if nothing would really happen.
Keep watching.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for joining us, all right?
Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Let's move on now to another story this time. Let's take you to where celebration is indeed still taking place, but let's inform you that residents of Nigeria's capital, Abuja, say the current inflation in the country, which has spiked the prices of goods and services, is currently affecting plans for the Easter celebration, which indeed took place during the weekend. Of course, it still continues to affect many. Well, some of them actually say they are forced to make tough choices as their budget for the festivity had been affected by the high cost of foodstuff in the market. Our correspondent Joshua Imarayi brings us more in this report.
As Christians across Nigeria mark Easter, the celebration is quiet in many households. Fresh data from the National Bureau of Statistics revealed that consumer inflation rose to 24.23% in March, up from 23.18% in February. This number isn't just data, it is visible on every stall and every face in the market. Rifkatu Sambo had saved up to buy food for Easter, but the market met her with something else: soaring prices.
Things are not encouraging. They are very expensive. With a little amount that you have, at least for the children, since they don't understand what the economic is, but you can get it 500, 1,000 at least to keep them in the mood of celebration.
At the meat shed, the situation is worse. What was once a crowded section of the market during festivities is now almost deserted. A kilogram of beef that sold for 4,700 last year now goes for 6,500.
When we see, even if it's not sell at once, when you read tomorrow, the money is not complete. So why you say now, even if it's not better, we sell them 6,500 per kilo.
See now, see where they are selling meat, no customers, because things are very hard. So there is too much meat in the market, but no customers.
And for perishable goods like tomatoes, sellers are counting losses daily.
You know, say the country don't change, everything costs. So before then they said this one, small price. Now everything high. So people like and better not get money. So how you come by?
Some they complain. Some they are not complaining. This basket like this, they say 6,000. But some people they are selling their own 5,500. But tomato is different. You understand? This is the Rica tomato. They are selling the Dachi basket 4,000. One is 3,500.
Easter is meant to be a time of joy and sharing. But for many Nigerians, it has become a season of sacrifice. As prices rise and wallets shrink, the true cost of celebration is now measured not just in naira, but in hard choices. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Great story there. Let's quickly bring you a recap of our top stories for the first hour as we go into the second. A quick recap: tension rises in PDP over President Tinubu's second-term bid. We just spoke to the national youth leader who joined us earlier on. Abuja residents groan as inflation mars festivities for many. That's a report packaged by Joshua Marayi. And Plateau residents celebrate Easter, hope for peace, and we do hope that they do truly get the peace that they desire.
Coming up next on Breakfast Central, Road to 2027, navigating Nigeria's political landscape. Can 6 end to unlawful killings call for peace? And coming up later today, we have Jasiri, News Central Now, and Politics at HQ at 7 p.m. Stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Conversations around Nigeria's political and leadership landscape continues to build up, especially as Nigeria leans towards another election cycle, the 2027 elections. While a lot of Nigerians would say it's probably too early, the politicians themselves are already steps ahead into their calculations, way ahead before the time itself comes. With the political winds shifting, we will be exploring the challenges and opportunities ahead as we count down to 2027. Joining us for this conversation this morning is a man who knows what it means to take such calculated actions. We're talking about the Lagos gubernatorial candidate of the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, GRV. Good morning. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Thanks for joining us.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Yeah.
I think a good way to start would be to ask, is it too early to start talking about 2027?
I don't think it's too early, particularly because there's so much suffering in the land. And politics is about selling hope. Politics is about conversation of hope that things can be better. And because of how dire the situation has been in the country for so long, you find that hope conversation coming up much earlier than usual. But it is based on the current context of what Nigerians are having to deal with.
So if it's not too early, that means those who genuinely believe in the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who have started to put billboards, should probably not be criticized as well.
I mean, I will not criticize them in the sense that they are channeling their own aspirations, their own hope, and selling that to the people. Ultimately, politics should be something where everybody sells their ideas, and we have a election that's transparent and fair, and the winner, the person that represents the hope of the people, emerges. But unfortunately, that is not the case in our country. So as far as I'm concerned, conversation has already started, and you cannot now say with one mouth that conversation should be limited to only a group of people, right? The conversation has started.
Now let's talk about the state of play of opposition in both Lagos State and at the federal level. Many Nigerians feel that the opposition has not stepped up to the plate, and that you have a ruling party that is almost running riots and has almost captured all opposition parties. You look at Lagos State, for example, and the debacle that happened at the State House of Assembly with zero consequences. You remove a speaker, returned him, he was accused of certain crimes, and his sins forgiven. And opposition really didn't do much. Look at the state of infrastructure in Lagos too. Many have said it's either the ruling party is doing such a very good job that the opposition is negligible or is not noticed, or the opposition is terrible at being opposition. What's your opinion of this?
I vehemently disagree with that. I think that Lagos State, at least I can speak authoritatively about that, has not witnessed this type of consistent opposition since the time of Funshaw Williams. You have politicians, not just myself, not just Labour Party. I always give kudos to people like Funshaw Doherty, a number of people that come out and are speaking and are holding government accountable. That is not the normal trend in Lagos politics. What we underestimate is the level of state capture that people have to deal with in Lagos State. And I'm talking about from traditional elites, Bales, Obas, traditional elites that can barely do anything without the say-so of the government, to the forces. I mean, till today, DSS says they did not send men to the State Assembly. But we saw men in the State Assembly.
right? Now, even this sort of aggression and violence against the will of people that started with 2023 elections, we see them do to themselves in their own party. Because there's no reason why...
They say it's a family affair.
That's rubbish, because it's not the Tinubu family that puts those members in State Assembly. Each of them have a constituency that was supposedly voted them into office. They are of that family first, because those are the people that are supposed to be accountable to. Unfortunately, that is not how our politics works, which is why we have this kind of ridiculous situation, because there is no reason why 85 to 90% of a group of people in the State Assembly say, we do not want this person to represent us, we want someone else, and somehow that is rubbished. The allegations against the Speaker is swept under the carpet, and we just have him imposed all over again. I mean, and we move on. And we move on. But again, what aside from holding government accountable, speaking out to the people, what exactly do you expect from the opposition? No, we need to also have this conversation. What do you expect from them?
Alternative policies, like you have shadow ministers in the UK parliamentary system.
To what end? Because how many people are going to vote based on your shadow policy in those 4 years? Like, if we actually start to have realistic conversations about the state of play of politics, and also understand that Lagos State has a much more sophisticated level of politics compared to the rest of Nigeria, right? Because there are conversations that you can have based on policy.
Yeah, but the numbers suggest otherwise. The numbers of people that go to the polls, there's huge voter apathy in Lagos State.
Is it really voter apathy, or the fact that a lot of people that we say are registered, they don't have their voters' cards? People are registered, but there are people that have a huge amount of voters' cards. I mean, during the last elections, we saw that people were throwing... I went to, I think it was Kirikiri, because there were a number of people that were held and were about to be imprisoned. There were young men and women that found huge amounts of voters' cards in the gutter. And they picked it out and were looking, because they knew some of the people who wanted to distribute it, they were arrested, right? And this was happening all over Lagos. So there's a huge amount of people registered. But what we now need to see, INEC, if possible, or some NGO needs to now say, okay, you are registered, your name is on there, how many of you have your voter's card? And that will give a more reflective index of who actually is registered to vote in Lagos State.
Anyway, just recently, New Central had its very first, chairman's dialogue, where all the chairmen from political party, 18 of them, unfortunately, one didn't show up, which happens to be the APC. But every other political party showed up, everyone was there. One of the major conversations there had to do with LASEC.
Okay.
Not being independent, but going ahead to increase the LD, the state, local government, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, they also highlighted the fact that whenever an opposition wants to, rival the ruling party, they get bullied, they get, threatened, they get beaten as far as possible, and so on. What's your take on LASEC? What's your take on Lagos politics, and how certain are you that the road to 2027 will not be even much difficult than it was in 2023?
Okay. So my first foray into politics was to run for local government chairman in Ikeja. I ran for local government in Ikeja. And I remember when I went to go and check our names for them to have been printed as candidates in the election. And I remember I was at burial, and the buses that came to carry the sensitive materials all had APC flags flying in them. Picture that, right? So that stayed with me. And that also is a reflection on how I see when you talk about the independence of this body. But then also, I cannot be a hypocrite in the sense that I know for a fact that every state, their own local government electioneering systems is very similar. Am I going to criticize Lagos State and not say also what happened in Abia State under my party? We saw them take the entire local government, right? So this is something that's happening all across the government. So there needs to be a fundamental reformation of how people come into office at the local government. And it should be more reflective so that those people can be more accountable to the people that they are supposed to serve.
All right, let's come to the more recent conversation about the possibility of a coalition. Whilst there isn't any hard evidence to push to that, but it's been a conversation that has just been floating around in the political space. We've had guests here who believe that regardless of whether or not they're admitting to the possibility of a coalition, that it's something that must happen if the current administration must be overthrown. Is that a perspective that you agree with?
Certainly, but there's a question I left on the table. Okay. He asked about the difficulty of the next election and people being bullied. And especially in Lagos State, it's extremely weird, to my mind, that people that have been in charge of a state for over 2 decades, that's over 20 years, do not have sort of viable programs to campaign with and to talk about how they've uplifted so many human beings that an election should be a walkover for them. Rather, they run this bureaucracy system, this motor-park type of politics where anybody that stands up against you is bullied, is violated, is violence, is intimidated, and all of that. Now, when you talk about is an election going to be easier, I don't think an election can ever be easy, but I do know that we are better prepared. I do know that nobody is sitting down waiting for results to be transmitted electronically. I do know that most politicians are sitting down, they're not thinking about getting their mandate from court. I do know that politicians are sitting down and getting organized based on what we experienced in 2023 elections. So we're not going to be caught off guard. So that's the answer to that.
So just to follow up, because you've said something different. If you say that the politicians are better prepared, do you think the Nigerian people are better prepared? Do you think that more people will come out, especially judging from the dissatisfaction that was experienced at the last election?
I think that a lot, and that's the good thing about being consistent, being a person of integrity. I feel that a lot of Lagosians are being exposed back to back now to an alternative take on what is going on. And being consistent will actually endear more politicians to the people, right? And we have to be better organized, and that is it. We need to be better organized, get more people out, and be very organized at community level, which is what we're doing. So I expect that kind of thing to happen. But let's not leave
my coalition question. Yes.
The coalition, I feel, must be done. I remember I spoke to one of these diplomats after the election, and he said, you know, yes, we know what happened in Lagos State. We put out reports on what happened in Lagos State. But the opposition was divided. And if you add the votes of the PDP and Labour Party, they overtake the APC by significant millions. So if you say you're going to still be divided and going to another election, then and you're going to divide votes, you're serious. So we need a coalition. And it just brings forces together to even stop rigging, to be able to mobilize enough forces to be able to deal with everything that comes along the electioneering journey. I feel it's extremely important, and the dance is going on. I'm just hoping.
Do the leaders of your party share the same sentiment?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Certainly. The question is, how is it going to come about? And that's the dilemma. But I mean, the conversations have started.
Okay.
Now, you've talked about strategy and working towards 2027 and learning mistakes from the past. But one thing you've not addressed is, and the elephant in the room, when it comes to politics in Nigeria, is the war chest, the financial muscle. We're dealing with a state that has been a one-party state in over 2 decades. Lagos State's IGR almost hitting 1 trillion a year. You have all those fantastic ideas. You have brilliant people that want to do this and that. But at the end of the day, from your first foray in politics, running for a local government chairman on the Akwa party, and to this present day, the poverty indices has increased monumentally. That means there are hungry people that might be easily swayed by vote buy-in. How do you plan to counter the APC war chest when it comes to politics? Because it's a factor.
100%. At the same time, you know, I've said Lagos State, at least Lagos State, Abuja, probably Port Harcourt, you have people that are also earning a living. You have people that don't have to sell their vote. And Labour Party defeated Bola Ahmed Tinubu, now President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in Lagos State. And how much do you think we spent? We did not spend a tenth of what the APC did. Because also, if you are dealing with a citizenry that is aware and deserves good governance, to make decisions that are not just limited by their feeling that day. And that's what we saw happen in Lagos State, right? Because one would think that the level of hunger and suffering that people are going through should be enough to make them make better decisions. And at some point, as Nigerians, we have to also tell ourselves and ask ourselves, do we deserve good governance? Because there's always so much put on the politician. Look at everything we've talked about. You have to defend the votes. You have to get the people to come out. You have to better strategize. Now we're talking about the watchers. If we're talking about what, first of all, if you think you're going to beat the APC by having more money than them, you've already lost the election. And typically, the reason why mainly hungry people come out to vote is because politicians don't speak to those that come out to vote that don't need your 1,000 naira. There's no high-level policy conversation. There is no consistency. There is no intelligent strategy. It's just the same Gbadebo type of politics that they've used to. And that was a different situation with 2023 elections. So it had more people come out, and we're coming out based on hope. They're coming out based on policy. We're coming out based on integrity, based on capacity, based on empathy. And that is what must continue. Any politician that believes that they're going to outspend a ruling party, especially a party that's had its hand in the coffers of Lagos State for over 2 decades, has already lost.
All right. I have a question, but there has to be a foundational question before I ask that. So the foundational question will be, do you intend to run for Lagos State governor again?
Well, every time I go, everybody has this question. Yes.
I mean, I just get that question.
You could have changed your mind.
Exactly. Anything can happen.
I'm not that kind of person.
You faced a number of challenges in your last attempt to become governor of Lagos State, and one of them was the tribalistic sentiments that were expressed by a number of Nigerians. I mean, they called you Chinedu, not necessarily because they were trying to compliment you. For them, it was some sort of insult, which I don't understand. But we are unfortunately divided strongly along ethnic lines, whether we like to admit it or not, and those divisions still exist. How do you hope to surmount them?
It's a very good question. You see, for me, I think to how many weddings one has attended, or no one has attended, one is aware of, where you see Yoruba people constantly marrying Igbo people. You think about the history of, has there been any major war between these people before independence? And you start to find, these people do business together. Look at all the top businesses, you see that there are people of multiple tribes in there running it, and they are very successful. So you start to find that these things are pushed by politicians, mainly so that we are distracted. You see, when the Igbo man, the Yoruba man, the Fulani man are just bickering at themselves, they cannot focus on who is really the owner of that bucket. It's like when they say a crab, you're in a crab bucket and they're trying to come up and the crab is pulling you down. And the question is not so much this crab pulling you down. The question is, why are you in a bucket in the first place? Who is the owner of that bucket? Who is benefiting from you being in that bucket? And it's the political elite. And they sow these things. You see, before elections, there will be all these accounts that will come up with tribal names, and they'll be saying the most ridiculous thing to stoke this division. But when you are divided, you cannot come together to demand better governance. So you find that you bicker amongst yourselves about issues that don't change your life in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't affect the school fees you pay. It doesn't affect how much you pay for light. It doesn't affect the price of food that you are getting. All of you are suffering the same suffering. And you almost take the elections as if it was a premiership game where once it's done, you can switch off and go back to your real life. But that is your real life. And I'm hoping, and actually, if there's anything I'm worried about, because I see this ethnic division be spiked significantly from the 2020 elections. It has not come down. And it's almost as though, are we foolish people? Because at some point we should see past all of this. We should be able to know that we are just being engineered to be bickering amongst ourselves, so we cannot face the government and actually demand good governance. And that's what happened with the NSAS, where everybody, regardless of tribe, religion, who came together to say, you know what, we want a better quality of life. And you see the power of that. And that's why you see the government still has PTSD from that. Once people come together, they can have their way. Government is supposed to be, politicians are supposed to be afraid of the people. But that's not the case here. Why? Because they constantly stoke these divisive things, and we stay bickering amongst ourselves instead of focusing on the main issues, right? And then the political elite can get away with anything. Why? Because we are not focused on holding them accountable. And that is the trick. And once you see past that trick, you cannot unsee it again. You know, it's about us coming together as a people, because everything that really matters affects all of us all together. No matter whether it's your son or your tribesman that is president, as long as Nigeria is doing badly, it's affecting all of us.
I mean, nobody's going to buy rice or fuel cheaper because they're from a certain tribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or reduce petrol because the president, you are from the same tribe.
Just like what we're seeing now. Everybody is like the popular statement on the streets now is they touch everybody. They go touch everybody. But Lagos is peculiar, especially with its politics. It's, many have said, it's quite different from every other state. Before I touch on other questions, I want to ask, how did you feel when you heard that Jando had left the PDP and headed straight to the APC? And are you also going to port anytime soon?
I'm all in favor of a coalition, but that coalition cannot be with the APC. So I've been very consistent in my stance, because I feel that everything that is wrong with Lagos State, to me, and to the suffering of a lot of Lagosians, is caused by the method of governance that the APC uses in Lagos State. So it's not something that I can abide by. Whatever Jando wants to do is his business. You know, he came from the APC. He's gone back to the APC. There's nothing we need to speak on that.
Nigerians oftentimes say that the APC and the PDP are like two sides of the same coin.
Not in Lagos. I don't agree with that, and that's why I joined the PDP in Lagos. PDP has never held government position. The closest that they had was with Funshaw Williams, and we know what happened to him. So, for me, building a coalition base that can actually challenge and remove this government so that the people can truly benefit from governance, without any godfather that's pulling any strings, insisting that there must be this monies that are accrued to them, or that money is accrued to them, to have the purse of Lagos actually work for Lagosians. And if one has to get into any coalition that limits that potential, then it's not worth my time.
Now let's talk about the electoral umpire, INEC. There's currently a bill in the National Assembly, I believe, in the House of Reps to streamline our elections and make have one day for all the elections. And their feel is that if that had happened in 2023, you would have been governor of Lagos today if the governorship elections held on the same day as the presidential elections. What is your take on that bill, and do you think INEC has the capacity to manage this? If that bill becomes a law, would they be able to conduct all those multiple elections in a single day?
If the governorship elections held on the day it was supposed to hold, I would have won that election fair and square. But there's even a bigger issue. Whether I held on the day it was supposed to hold, or if it was held the same day as presidential election, it was that a group of people came together to plan violence against the people that they intend to govern. Right? And the reason why we could get to what we did in Lagos State during the presidential election is because they underestimated us. They did not see us coming. Now, if you have it on the same day, you don't have it on the same day, as long as people depend on violence and intimidation to hurt people, it will affect the outcome of the election. Now, about capacity, so I say all that to say that's why politicians are planning better. Based on what we've experienced in 2023, nobody is going for that kind of thing anymore. A lot of us believe that there will be electronic transmission of votes, so a lot of the snags that come with the electionary system will be avoided, but that's not the case. And so we've learned that lesson. But to your question, you see, this delayed electioneering process is very, there are some very negative things that come with it. So, for instance, the postponing of elections. Now, you find a political party, because it happened when I was in PDP, it also happened when I'm in Labour Party. The scarce resources the opposition party have, they give it out the night before the election to mobilize for food, for logistics and everything. Then around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you hear that the election has been postponed. Now that money is not coming back. So I also feel that it's a deliberate strategy that they use to weaken the opposition party. And that will be avoided if everything is done on the same day. I also feel that for Nigerians as a whole, they will achieve economies of scale and run a much more efficient and cheaper electioneering process, because they're just adding 2 more ballots to the whole thing. And why not? I mean, the bus, the plane that is moving all these things can easily carry another pack of 2 voter cards. You also reduce your costs in terms of logistics for your police, for your security team, you know. So I don't think INEC does not have the capacity. The question is, the people in INEC, do they want to run credible elections? Are they able to run credible elections? We saw what happened in Ghana. We saw what happened in South Africa. Right? These are countries that have decided that they want to run a credible election. And unfortunately, these people, they might feel they are winning on this short term. But the damage they are doing to this country, like the literal damage, you know, there are a lot of things that are not blatant to see. When your people start to lose complete hope in your institutions and your structures, that keg of gunpowder you're sitting on, you're literally lighting a match on that. Because once people don't have hope, they have to take things into their own hands. If people don't have hope in judiciary, they take things into their own hands. And we are creating a big problem for ourselves, right? So I'm hoping that the people will realize this and then step up, as the politicians are also going to step up. And it's a collective struggle to be able to have leadership that is reflective of the desires and needs of the people.
All right. We'll go on a very quick break. When we come back from the break, we'll be exploring more conversations this morning. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still exploring conversations surrounding Nigeria's political landscape as we count down to 2027 elections. And we're joined by the Lagos State gubernatorial candidate for the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. It's good to have you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I mean, we've explored a number of conversations this morning from political parties. We'll come back to the political parties, but I want to talk about Nigeria's security architecture. It unfortunately feels like whenever we have elections, there's a war. Days before, you're seeing the military appearing on the streets, almost like there's some sort of subtle, not so subtle show of force to let people know that if you do anyhow, you see anyhow. Do you think that our security architecture as is prepared for the 2027 elections, especially because at some polling units, you will see police officers there, they're not armed, and when, you know, situations erupt into a violent case, they'll tell you, you know, the police is not meant to be armed during the election. So do we maybe need to revisit the way that we apply our security architecture during the elections?
That's a very good question. I mean, even thinking about politics, 2027 is too far. Look at all the killings that are happening across the country. Is our security architecture able to handle and keep the lives of people safe and property? I mean, even there were incursions by herdsmen into Ondo recently. The president was quiet. I don't know, has not said anything. And this is very similar to 2019 when there were killings in Ondo State and Oyo State. He was quiet, right? They have not said anything. If there's a little mishap in France now, you see there'll be a statement out from the presidency. And these are things that really they affect me.
I mean, he gave a statement regarding the Plateau killings, and he was still criticized. They said, you know what, a statement is not good enough. Why are you in France?
You will be criticized. And there's a good question. We elected you as president. You are the #1 citizen controlling the destiny of over 200 million people. Why are you in France? Why are you in France?
They said it's working for them.
Working visits. There are many people that can work from their country, right? Imagine if you did working visits in each state. Imagine tourism potential and the boost to the economy of each state. Why not? Why not create, if it's really hospital you are going to, create the infrastructure, buy the machines, fly the doctors in. Why not? Why do we have to deal with this level of mediocrity as Nigerians? If a president, the #1 man, has to constantly go out, what hope is there for the ordinary Nigerian in our healthcare system? Whatever excuse that they want to give. But that's even besides the point. Let's go back to your question. Again, one, it's not even about the police having weapons. There are no consequences to people that disrupt elections. there's no proper consequences. We see the young man that came to disrupt the NSAS election on machetes and everything. He's free, he's all walking. Everybody knows who he is. He has not been taken to police custody. People that come and disrupt elections, they are free to go as if nothing happened. There's no consequences. Now, you see, the problem is this. Because now, if we don't believe there are consequences, there's going to have to be consequences. Because you cannot steal the destiny of people and just pretend, and the next 4 years, just walk around as if you did not do anything. At some point, there must be consequences. If you are going to mess up the process of an election, because in England, people just go vote, they get about their day.
It's a civil exercise.
It's a civil exercise. God bless you. Power is either gotten from the barrel of a gun or at the ballot. The problem in this country, and especially in Lagos, is they try to create this mixture of it, violence and through the ballot. So it becomes sort of a performative exercise. And that's why our electioneering and the people that are in charge are not reflective of the will of the people. And they're not reflective of the will of the people because they do not believe the people put them in there. So they are not accountable to the people or working to make the lives of people better. It's a very basic equation. As long as that equation is not balanced, our country will continue going down in the nosedive. And the quality of politicians that come up to office will constantly get worse and worse and worse. So this needs to change. And people are going to have to face consequences. There must be consequences. So I believe that this thing is going to be taken by the people. It's not so much if the police is compromised, if INEC is compromised, the people, because we outnumber them with significant ratios. And the people have to take charge. Because what we've seen from the last election is you see someone come and carry a ballot box and police is just looking. So are we going to continue doing that thing? Are we like dumb? Are we stupid? You know, so something has to change. And that is going to change. You know, so security architecture, when there is a real will, when the corruption is not a situation where money is allocated for weapons, and then we are hearing that money has disappeared somewhere. This military man was supposed to be in charge, corruption ensued, and he's now being rewarded with an ambassadorial position. I mean, no consequences, and that's the problem that we're facing.
Now let's talk about Lagos State. That is very dear to your heart, and urban planning, infrastructure, which is similar to what you do professionally. For a state that prides itself as a mega city, you know, always quick to say we're the 4th biggest economy in Africa, we're almost hitting 1 trillion in internally generated revenue. Does the infrastructure that you witness in the state of hygiene in Lagos State, the roads infrastructure, street lights, is it commensurate to the amount generated, and what should be the standard? Because Lagos defenders would also say, you know, you compare to other states in the north and the east that is better than that. We have skyscrapers, there's dirty December and things like that. Or they say, go back to your state.
Certainly not. And a lot of people that carry this sort of narrative, unfortunately, most of them are not Lagosians, so they don't know the history of Lagos. Lagos has been the home of commerce and wealth since the 1700s. We're dealing with the Portuguese, the British. Some made money by enslaving people and human trafficking. Some made money through trade. But money has not been a problem in Lagos State. So taking pride in how much you generate, or even the idea that you compare Lagos to any other state is completely nonsensical. You cannot compare Lagos State to any other state in this country. Why? Because first, Lagos was the capital for the colonial government. Lagos was the crown colony. Lagos was the Atlantic-facing center of the Benin Empire. Lagos was the place where all the people that survived the slave trade, that came back, that made wealth, I'm talking about tremendous wealth, came and settled. So they also brought that wave of development that came with the architecture, with the funding, with the businesses. Lagos was then the center of commerce and also the capital of Nigeria for so many years. No other state in this country, in this geographical expression, has experienced that amount of input and investment. So Lagos State should be compared to other city-states across Africa. When you're talking about Rwanda, I mean, the time where you're talking about Lagos, you're also talking about London, right? we should know there's no other state we can be comparing Lagos to, as far as I am concerned, with the history that's been passed down to me. That's one. Two, level of infrastructure. I mean, just look at street lights. Why should there be any part of Lagos that's in darkness? And it's not just aesthetic. Think about how just having lights reduces criminality in a place, reduces the amount of unscrupulous elements that can be in an area.
Accidents as well.
Accidents as well, and just contributes to much better quality of life. A nighttime economy, which is really what would then increase the IGR even further. And these are things that should not be difficult to achieve, considering the tremendous amount of money that they say in Lagos State generates. But then also look at the debt that Lagos is in. And then you ask yourself, you're getting this IGR, you're borrowing all this money, what is it being used for? A lot of development that's happening in Lagos is privately held. Up till now, in a mega city, all our gutters, majority of our gutters are still uncovered. Water in it is stagnant. Then they blame the citizens that they dump waste in the garbage. Then you go and ask, how many times in a month is their waste collected? And you hear things like twice a month. So citizens are not pigs that are going to be living with their waste. There must be a better system, a holistic system that manages, that's waste management, drainage management, you know, and environmental management. You know, everything must come together. And for a city like Lagos that has this kind of rich history, is performing is very, very underwhelming.
If you, I mean, talking about performing underwhelming, just like we asked other political party members, what do you think of the governor's second term? Do you think it's effective? Do you think it's far better than the first? And many have said that the state is currently like it's running on autopilot, where the pilot, of course, doesn't reside in Lagos, but it seems like there are commands that are coming from somewhere, and the governor has no power. So I'm going to ask first, what do you think about the governor's second term? The second question would be, what do you also make of the coincidence within the same APC? Recently, the chaotic traffic situation in Lagos that had people stuck, like, you know, us here for 12 to 15 hours just to get home. I know you dropped a comment or two there on X concerning that situation. And then there was a difference between the Minister of Works who and the governor. Governor said something, and the Minister of Works came and said something else. What do you make of all of this?
That's a very pregnant question, like two carrying triplets. Let me try to dissect it. The second term situation, you see, as long as the person in charge of a state does not have the free rein to form policy based on the aspirations and the hope of the people that he met or she met on the campaign trail, the governance will not be reflective of the needs of the people, right? As long as the governor is going to be, you know, there's a puppet master behind the governor, you cannot really blame the governor. I mean, that's the system they are running, right? So if we're going to blame anybody, we're going to blame the system. Because, I mean, Governor Sanwo-Olu came in after a Governor Ambode. And as far as I'm concerned, Governor Ambode actually showed vision to a large extent to the parameters that he was in, right? He seemed to push that box that he was in, and you see the way
and it
cost him a second term. He was removed just like somebody. He was just easily removed, and then they brought in this new governor, and obviously he's going to go with the orders. He's going to go with the instructions. But the issue is that people did not vote for the person giving him that instruction. Who voted for him?
Who is giving him the instructions?
The person that's currently president, the person that made Obasa come back, the person that said Obasa has to return, right? Wait, you think President Tinubu now is the one that has been running Lagos for the last 2 decades? I mean, this is not, I think it's even an insult to the intelligence of Lagosians and Nigerians to even call it an open secret, right? It is what it is, right? And these people are accountable to him. And unfortunately, that is a very big problem. It's a very big problem because until the needs of the people come first, over and beyond anybody else, we are not going to experience good quality governance. We will get token projects. We'll get that bridge that is going over in Yaba. We'll get 16 kilometers of blue rail in 16 years. We'll have conversation about the fourth mainland bridge. We will go through the regular performative things that gives the impression that work is going on. But you are not going to feel that impact. See, Chief, I keep talking about him, Chief Lateef Jakonde. What he achieved in 4.5 years is impact. Impact because you have put the people first. It's not performative, it's not token projects, you put the people first. And until we have a leader that comes into position by virtue of the people and is determined to make and uplift the lives of people because he knows that the only way he can return is through the people, we are not going to experience that. You get your token projects, you clap. A bridge that you have gotten 5 of those bridges, you get one, you clap, but it's not, development is not moving at the pace that Lagos State needs to move, because it's not just about what Lagos State needs today. It's about putting in development that Lagos will be able to benefit from in 10, 15 years, because our population is increasing significantly. And rule of thumb is that Lagos State will house 10% of the population in Nigeria. Now, that is not even taking into account all this violence that's happening across the middle belt, the north. Where there's violence like that, more migration comes down. It's not just people that are looking for jobs or because, there's money in Lagos. It's because people are running for their lives and looking for a place that's safe. And Lagos State has been home to a lot of people from the 1700s, right? We have, that is our culture. We are welcoming people, So they need to think about that, because when they talk about IGR and all these things, it's not coming from this air.
All right.
It's coming from the people.
When we come back, we'll probably push back a little on some of the things that you said, especially as to the president being the one running Lagos State. I'm sure a number of Lagosians will not agree with that.
All right.
But let's go on a break, and when we come back, we have the final leg of the conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back to the final leg of our conversation about the road to 2027, and we're still joined by Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. Before we went on the break, you were talking about how the current administration were rating Lagos State Governor's performance and talking about how he receives, orders from the top, from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and made reference, of course, to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu being the one that reinstated Obasa. And, part of the pushback I wanted to highlight to that would be that Obasa can say that it's a court judgment that has solidified his stance, one. Two, the Governorship Advisory Council are the ones that we know that advised the situation, and many people kicked against Governorship Advisory Council, saying that's not a part of a system we recognize. That may be an APC structure, but it's not a governorship structure, and as such, they cannot make standing decisions that would affect the Lagos State House of Assembly. So I wanted to quickly push back on that and have you respond to that, whilst you also respond to his statement on the miscommunication between the federal and the state.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for reminding me about that. If he recently got a judgment, right? I think that was last week.
Yes.
Why didn't you just wait for that judgment? Why was there this level of violence against the will of the people in the State Assembly? Why did we have armed men come into the State Assembly? The guns that they said they found, what's going on with that? All the monies that we're taking, I think it was 17 or 7 billion to build a gate.
17
billion. Why is EFCC not investigating that? Whether it's a performative investigation or not, at least let's see some attempts to even just, fool us. Let's see that you even respect us enough to even just look into it. We don't see anything like that. There are reports, I'm in politics, so I hear a number of things. Obviously, I cannot come and substantiate it. I'm not a member of their party. But I think if after 20 years, we are not of the dynamics of how APC manages this mafia type system in Lagos State, then, maybe we deserve that type of governance, To your question, I feel that Lagos State, it's performative. So the impetus, the things that push development is not about positioning the needs of the people first or their well-being, right? So it's almost as though Lagosians are punished for work being done, right? So a road is being done, you should be grateful that the road is being done, and you also have to persevere. There is no scenario planning, there is no thinking on how we can minimize the effect on the quality of lives of Lagosians. That should be the number one thing.
I mean, if you don't have business on the island, don't come. I'm prepared to stay to avoid this place for 2 months.
I give an example of a bridge. I think it was a 30-ton bridge, if I'm correct, in China that was done in 43 hours, because the main priority was to limit the inconvenience that the people face. You look all over the world, you see them program planning for projects that are done at night to reduce the inconvenience that people face. And that's why I have to give credit to Mr. Omahi, the Minister of Engineer David Umahi, the Minister of Works. You see, he came in, he understood that, you know, we can do this thing differently. Because if you prioritize the minimizing the inconvenience that people face, it will determine the contractor you use for that job. It will determine how you do it. It will determine when you do it. There are times in Lagos State where traffic is significantly low, and it will be minimized. Any disruption will be minimized on the effect of the people. And you can time it that way. But you see in this situation that there was no such thing. It was whatever is going to happen, Lagosians deal with it. We have to do this job. Especially since they said this contract has been given for almost 3 years. So they've had time to figure out the best time to do this with the minimal level of disruption that will happen. So it was just poor planning, poor scenario planning, and really just a reflection of how citizens are seeing in Lagos. It's just, you know, vibes.
Yeah, I'll do you a favor. You have to enjoy it. My final thoughts on this conversation for me is, you belong to a new generation of politicians. You're cut from a different cloth. Do you really believe that genuine change can come from the system? Because you said, hello, the problem is the system. Because as long as the system is there, we might have a dysfunctional output. So do you really believe that genuine change can come from this system?
You know, well, first of all, I do, and that's why I'm not joining the APC, right? Because they are perpetrators of the system that I criticize. Second of all, I believe that, you know, it's about consistency. The more you stay in it, the more consistent you are in it, the stronger you become, the stronger your networks, the stronger that people start to see you to be and perceive you to be and have and understand what you're trying to achieve. And also there's a timing for everything, right? So it's about staying on the ball. Now, yes, sometimes you also have to meet the challenge where it is, as opposed to being idealistic and having these big ideas and just feel, okay, we're going to talk about policies, we're going to talk about manifestos. And when you now see that the person you're trying to debate with is not coming for any debate, is instead accompanying the president over Nigeria as if he doesn't have a constituency in Lagos State that he's supposed to speak to as a steward of the state, you start to realize that, you know, you need to switch things up.
So your journey from COA to PDP and Labour Party has taught you a lot in this year?
Of course. It's an experience you cannot buy with money, you know. So, and we're building on that, right. You know, because it's also about the group of people that support us are people that do not want the continuity of this mafia-type government. So as long as you're consistent with them, you build that base, you're going to succeed. It's inevitable.
My final question, and forgive me, might be a two-double-barrel question. And it's a pregnant one. It's in response to the coalition, the likelihood of a coalition. You've lent your voice to it, saying that you support it, and you think that it's imperative that this happens. One person who's spoken strongly against it is the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike. So I want your thoughts on his criticism of the coalition. And also, for those who would say that if you support a coalition, parties are meant to be built on ideologies. And if these parties, you know, come together to say their core vision is to topple the government of the day or to overthrow the government of the day, does that not maybe take away from what the individual ideologies of these parties are?
Well, I don't really give much credence to the Minister of the FCT or anything he has to say. I feel that an opportunistic politician is just there for his interests. It's not about the people. And frankly, if you're there for your interests, that's why you're there, right? We're suffering from a disease in Nigeria now called bigmanism. And it's just about the interests of a couple of individuals, and they just throw their weight around. And it's really, you never hear them fighting or arguing about the betterment of Nigerians. Never hear them arguing about the betterment of the quality of education of this child in Rivers State, or the quality of the healthcare system, or should we do this type of healthcare insurance, or that type of healthcare insurance.
Ego-driven.
It's just ego-driven. And it's people that have just come to normalize that. It has been normalized. When you take that and compare with the likes of Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Azikiwe, think about the things they used to talk about, things they used to fight about.
The people even pick sides. It's almost like entertainment.
You know, it is entertainment, but they don't understand that the entertainment is detrimental to their own life, right? So that's the first thing.
And the
second
ideology,
thing,
yes.
On ideology, I believe, you see, if we continued the quality of governance that we had from the Chief Obafemi Awolowo's, Lateef Jakonde's, Azikiwe's, that was very ideological driven. Unfortunately, that was cut short by the military. Till today, we've not gotten back to an ideological thing. They're just some parties that you say, okay, there might have been corruption, but there was a lot more love and respect for the people, right? And I would say that about the PDP compared to what I'm seeing with the APC. But we need to get to a level where we are not in survival mode anymore, and we can start to have the big ideas and big conversations. And I don't see that happening in another 20 years.
That's a tough one, though.
You're calculating your age.
No, but it's the truth, because for you to start having these big idea conversations, there must have been quality governance for a amount of time. So that we can now start debating, okay, what type of healthcare coverage are we going to have? And there are politicians that are passionate about this type, there's politicians passionate about this type. What type of education syllabus should we have? What should we be teaching our children, right? And there are debates about it. Are we connecting them back to ancient Africa with the history and knowledge? Are we questioning some of the colonial brainwashing that happened? And there will be people for and against. Those are big ideas, right? And those are things that will then put you into different political camps. But right now, everybody's talking about, we'll give you water, we'll do road, we'll buy lights.
Maslow's
and even these basic things are not even being provided for. This light one is another argument, Band A, and the banditry that these Band A and all the other
We've just normalized our mediocrity, and we've glorified it. I was saying to somebody, you have bad roads, you buy a Jeep. Bad schools, you send your child abroad. The president cannot get good health care, he flies abroad. Now you cannot supply all electricity, so there's now the elite Band A.
And even the solar panel, there's a potential of them people not being able to afford it.
Glamorizing mediocrity, that's what we've
2027 is just really, it's less than 2 years away. You know, the elections are just around the corner and the moves are being made. Thank you, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you all the best, as we count down towards preparations for 2027. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we'll share with you the next set of conversations. But let's share with you first what's still to come. The newspaper front pages where we open the phone lines and have you call in to share your thoughts. And we bring you Which Way Nigeria, another thought-provoking monologue comes your way this morning. And young innovators revolutionize campus scheduling with app. Stay tuned.
It's time for breakfast headlines on Breakfast Central. I am Benga Aboroa. The Bishop of the Sokoto Catholic Diocese, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, has urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to take urgent action to end the suffering and insecurity facing Nigerians. Delivering his Easter message, Bishop Kuka decried the culture of brutality and violence across the country, warning that Nigeria risks falling outside the bound of human civilization. He described the country as turning into a national morgue where citizens are abducted or killed daily by terrorists and criminal groups. The bishop appealed to President Tinubu to show leadership and decisiveness in restoring peace, saying Nigerians are hanging on the cross and at the mercy of forces of darkness. This message comes amidst growing concern over rising insecurity and hardship nationwide. Similarly, the former presidential aspirant of the All Progressive Congress, Tunde Bakare, has decried the relationship between the executive and the legislative arm of government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, asking the Nigerian leader to stop playing God. Bakare, the serving overseer of the Citadel Global Community Church, issued the warning in a State of the Nation address delivered in the Lagos auditorium of his church on Sunday. He raised the alarm over the state of affairs in the country, saying Nigeria is steering in the wrong direction.
Fellow citizens, at the center of this political banditry is the motor park brand of politics, nurtured by the old brigade politicians, and in recent times by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. President, it is through your influence that the Nigerian National Assembly has become a haven for legislative rascality. Mr. President, it's under your watch that the National Assembly has become an extension of the executive, grossly violating the principles of separation of powers and rubber stamping the whims and caprices of your office, all while singing the international anthem of sycophants on your mandate we shall stand. Mr. President, thanks to your political machinations, Nigeria is now bedeviled by a captured National Assembly, the most ineffective.
In response to the recent surge in terrorist activities in Gwaza local government area of Borno State, Senator representing Southern Borno Ali Ndume has emphasized the need for residents to protect themselves by supporting the armed forces. Senator Ndume was speaking at the Emir of Gwaza's palace shortly after visiting one of the recently attacked communities in Yamtake. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports that the military and other security forces have since been reinforced to ensure safety of lives and properties in the hinterland. Still on security matters, residents of Bariton local government area in Kwara State have confirmed the presence of armed bandits operating in the northern parts of the council. They say they came under attack over the weekend by bandits believed to have been pushed out of the northeast and northwest regions. Some residents were reportedly killed in the assault, while the community's vigilante vehicle and several motorcycles were set ablaze. Although the Kwara State Police Command has repeatedly denied the presence of bandits in the area, locals and Bariton are presenting photo and video evidence to support their claims. Bariton is approximately a 6-hour drive from Ilorin, the state capital. Meanwhile, former Minister of Defense, retired Lieutenant General Theophilus Danjuma, has urged Nigerians to defend themselves from the menace of insecurity. General Danjuma made the call over the weekend during a public event in Takum local government area of Taraba State. He said his opinion is predicated on the fact that government alone cannot win the fight against insecurity in the country. He recalled that he gave the advice years ago, adding that his position is as valid today as it was when he first called attention to the need for Nigerians to learn to defend themselves. The death toll from the collapse of the 3-story building on Oremeta Street in Ojuduberga area of Lagos State has risen to 5. The National Emergency Management Authority, NEMA, confirmed this in a statement on Sunday, adding that 15 people have been rescued. The building housing a local restaurant collapsed at about 8 a.m. on Saturday, leaving an unspecified number of people trapped beneath the rubble. It was learned that the building had been under construction. Now, away from Nigeria, women in Guinea-Bissau attacked a Chinese-run zircon mining site in the northwest, setting fire to equipment. The women said they were driven to act after the authorities ignored their complaints about the environmental damage the mining activities were causing to their farms. Witnesses reported that several hundred women took part in the protest in Nkinin, near the resort town of Valera, close to the Senegalese border. The Chinese companies had been operating at the site since 2022.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Breaking news reaching us, unfortunately, is that Pope Francis has passed on. The report was given by the Vatican News and says in the post, they say at 9:35 on Easter Monday morning, Cardinal Kevin Farrell, Camelengo of the Apostolic Chamber, spoke these words at Casa Santa Marta. He says, "Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the passing of our father." He said, I must announce the passing of our father, Holy Father Francis, at 7:35 this morning. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized. With immense gratitude for its example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and triune God. That's the update that we have regarding this story. Unfortunate updates there. His life has spanned from 1935 to 2025, and there's just a number of people have started to pour out their reactions and share their thoughts regarding his passing on social media. Not what we expected, not what we saw coming, and even further information on the website of the Vatican News. They talked about the father being admitted to Agostino Gemelli Polyclinic Hospital on Friday, 14th of February 2025, after suffering from a bout of bronchitis for several days. They say that Pope Francis' clinical situation gradually worsened, and his doctors diagnosed bilateral pneumonia on Tuesday, February 18th. After 38 days in the hospital, the late Pope returned to his Vatican residence at the Casa Santa Marta to continue his recovery. In 1957, in his early 20s, Jorge Mario Bergoglio underwent surgery in his native Argentina to remove a portion of his lung that had been affected by severe respiratory infection. As he aged, Pope Francis frequently suffered bouts of respiratory illnesses, even cancelling a planned visit to the United Arab Emirates in November 2023 due to influenza and lung inflammation. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the Catholic Church in this moment, and our hearts go out to them, as many who are currently going to be dealing with the loss of Pope Francis. He was a very very popular figure, not just in the Catholic Church, but even in the political space, as he did not turn a blind eye to political matters, and he spoke strongly about his thoughts, even on matters some might have considered controversial, matters people might have been afraid to speak about. Pope Francis was never afraid of sharing his thoughts on these subject matters. Having uncomfortable conversations, was his forte.
He'll be remembered as one of the great popes. I mean, he took his papal name, Francis, after the Saint Francis of Assisi, who was known for really helping the poor. I remember his comments, and also on peacekeeping. It was very instrumental to peace in South Sudan between President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar. He will be remembered as one of the very great popes. So this is coming to me as a surprise, because he made a very rare Easter appearance just yesterday after his long stay in hospital, appearing to perform Easter Mass, just to hear that less than 24 hours later he's joined the saints. We wish him of
course, our thoughts and our prayers are with the members of the Catholic Church, who in this moment will be, leading to process this information. But as we get more information, we'll be bringing it your way. Just to mention that this, of course, is information from the Vatican News that we have shared with you about Pope Francis having gone to be with the Lord. And that's all that we have this morning on the Breaking News. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's time to look at the front pages of the papers. We're joined this morning by journalist Habib Aruna. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
You don't bring Easter meat for us, you know.
He's risen.
He's risen.
He's risen.
Yes. So you should have brought something to celebrate his rising.
What do they eat during Easter? I always see egg. Ghanaians will celebrate Easter a lot.
And symbolically, as we are celebrating not the death,
the resurrection of Jesus and then the Pope.
Died.
I think it's actually very symbolic that in the moment where we're celebrating the resurrection of Jesus, the Pope then transitions
so it's
to
a
glory.
message to mankind. Yes,
very
it's
symbolic
a very deep message.
But what message does that pass to Nigerian politicians?
Is that sacrifice. And I was telling one guy just 2 minutes ago that the Pope would have wished to die on this day. So it's possible that God answers his prayer.
Very,
and I like that he was very brave and vocal about it. Because suffering in one place is suffering. He always spoke about the Palestinian cause.
Yes.
And looking at the birthplace of Jesus,
justice.
That it's quite unfortunate what has happened.
And against the politics of that madman in White House,
wow.
Donald Trump.
I'm not still around. I'm not deal. Well, let's get to the papers this morning. On the front page of our first paper this morning is the Leadership newspaper, and on the front page of the Leadership, Northern leaders divided over 2027 politics. Quite interesting because we had Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour this morning to join us to talk about the road to 2027. North will define direction in 6 months, NEF says. We are non-partisan, ACF says. Killings plots to frustrate Tinubu's re-election. Hey, who is saying this one?
Everything is politics.
Really, everything has been politicized. It's such a shame that lives of Nigerians are being lost, and we are politicizing the lives of Nigerians. Police operatives rescue 12 kidnapped victims. Gunmen abduct 7 travelers in Kwara. Ukraine war, Russia denies breaking Easter ceasefire deal. Defections hit APC, PDP in Gombe. Dara Emir, Turbans, Hamza Suleiman, Sadalkin, Kasar Hausa. We differ with Bakari but respect his views, President says. And finally, SEC wants influencers, bloggers against promoting Ponzi scheme. 2 stories here. The road to 2027 are your thoughts regarding these headlines, as well as Bakari. I don't know if you saw Pastor Tunde Bakari and your thoughts about it. Presidency say we differ with him, but we respect his views. I think that's very mature.
Absolutely. I'm talking about Bakari first or the Northern.
You can talk about anyone. Choose whichever you prefer.
Let's talk about the first. Okay. You should be expecting this from the Northern elite, Northern establishment. All of us are not comfortable with the direction of Nigeria. They are not comfortable with Tinubu, who they know is a very smart politician. They shine a lot, you know. But I will be comfortable if the Northern leaders are focused on governance, are focused on the economy, and focused on insecurity that is ravaging their part of the country. You know, I'm talking about 2027, that they will not allow Tinubu to continue. No, that is around nonsense. Look at Baba Ahmed, that led this government just 4 years ago. He's saying that the North will take a stand. The North should be talking about free and fair elections. They should be talking about coalition. They should be talking about how to provide effective opposition to Tinubu than just giving out threats. Cannot work. You know, these guys they rule for 8 years. It's the turn of the South now. They're not making noise. They're not comfortable. And for God's sake, who are their lead? The common man in the street in the North are suffering. They don't understand what these people are saying. They're just working to promote and protect their interest. The Northern elite. So that one cannot work. You know, we have passed through this road before. Let them come out with somebody that can challenge Tinubu based on what he has done so far, and give an alternative to what he or she can do to move this country forward. I'm not saying any. They're not giving out threat, and it cannot work. The present occupant of Azu Rock is smarter than that. And Nigerians, I'm sure, are wiser. You know, to Bakari, it should be expected. You know, what I've been saying on this program for long is what the man hammered on yesterday, the National Assembly. You know, all of us should be afraid. All of them should be concerned that we have a very docile, very insensitive, and very incapable National Assembly led by Akpabio.
Pastor Bakari said that the On Your Mandate song that was sung that was led in chorus
It's a global
by Akwa. He called it an international anthem of sycophants.
Absolutely.
Don't you think that's a bit too harsh for the caliber of men and women we have in the land? These are distinguished senators we're talking
agree with
about
him.
here.
I agree with him totally, and I've been saying it consistently. You know, you can be supportive and at the same time independent. You can be independent and interdependent. You know, if you are independent, you are working to make sure that there is rule of law, that there is good governance, that you are checkmating the exercise of the executive. That is your role as the head of legislature in Nigeria. Akwa is a sycophant of the highest order. I'm not missing words. What we have done so far.
So he took it too far. There's a way you can show loyalty.
It's an extension of Aso Rock. He doesn't give a damn. And people are shouting, people are talking, people are concerned about what he's doing. The man does not even give a hook. You know, so I think when people like Bakare, who have seen it all, who is up there, is talking, people will listen. You can't be singing on your legislature. On your Monday we shall stand. I'm a Tinubu supporter, but I can't sing on your Monday we shall stand. Go to my way of life and my basic principles. You know, and for the head of legislature in Nigeria to have descended so low and be singing that Monday, that kind of song
in the chambers,
we have problem.
A lot of problem though. Anyway, let's see if we can quickly just move a little bit before we go back to Pastor Bakare's statement. We do have our correspondent who's standing to join us. There seems to be a good news where Nigerian women aged between 21 and 24 are making waves in the tech industry. They've been able to create a particular tech or application. It's called Tita. It arranges your digital timetable platform, so on and so forth. But let's join Sumaya Abubakar, who joins us now. Good morning, Sumaya. Can you hear us?
Good morning to everyone in the studio. I can hear you, and happy Easter.
Wonderful app that everyone seems to be talking about. And why is it so unique, and why is everyone talking about it?
I mean, first of all, the uniqueness starts with the age. These are a group of young ladies, 21 to 24, and I'm telling you this as a 2025, that's their age today. But then they started this way back. I'm talking about an 18, 19 to 20 years, way back in uni. And they said they had to experience fellow students of theirs going to the class, and then the lecture was cancelled. And on her way back, she lost her life. So because of that, that motivated them to find solutions to all the problem of missed classes, a lecturer having something coming up. And this group of young women came together with the economic hardship. You can testify to that. And they actually broke barriers with that. Now, it wasn't easy starting, especially when it comes to financial support and all of that. But they did have a very great mentor, a supporter, who invested in their app at the earliest, which is a military man. And we could not talk to him, of course, because you know the rules of the military. So having young women in Nigeria break this barrier is something that is really unique and something that Nigeria should be really proud of.
All right, great story. Just one more question from my end. Aside from the app, can you also bring us up to speed how your location, where you are? First of all, let us know where you are, and tell us what the people within that area did yesterday during the celebration, and what really took place. Let's get a feel of what really happened where you are.
Well, from my own end, I would have to tell you that I got a rice, with chicken atop from my neighbors. So definitely celebration has been ongoing here. Currently, I'm at Nyanya, and as you can see the road, panning around, you would realize that people are going out now for a Monday morning, which is usually really busy. This is the time that people have started going out to celebrate, and in due course, as the day pans out, we will definitely bring you and keep you up to speed with what is going on, going to the parks and recreational centers to keep up with people. But now, Abuja is really buzzed. People are really excited. There is celebrations everywhere. The streets are a bit empty, but most times, I think it starts from 10 to even 6 p.m. That's why you see the road really full, and everybody is finding their way to go celebrate with their loved ones.
Onakoya, for joining us. And keep up the good work. We'll get back to you pretty soon and, most importantly, continue the conversation. Thanks for your time. All right, let's move straight to our next paper. I'd like us to look at the Vanguard very quickly. The Vanguard has a more detailed information. Insecurity, Danjuma, Atiku, Kuka, Bakare, others rage. You said you've watched the video of Bakare, so we don't need to waste time here. Let's just go straight into it. What were your thoughts when he first of all said the president is running a motor park, he's running a motor park politics? He also went ahead to mention, of course, like Benga and Olive also highlighted the psycho-fancy in terms of singing that song, which we just touched on before we went to our correspondent. There's also the mention of not paying attention to insecurity, which was said by Atiku and, of course, Kuka as well. What's your take on all of this?
And then General Danjuma, sorry to butt in, also said people should resort to defending themselves.
You see, all of us should be concerned about the state of insecurity in Nigeria. And when people like Danjuma, a former defense minister, former army chief of staff, a top businessman in the country, and a man that's senator that is always close to the corridor of power, and the man is expressing the reservation openly, you should be concerned. You take note. Don't forget, the Danjuma is from Taraba State, a northern Christian, a very influential man. And he has said more than once that if you sit down there and you are watching, not doing anything, they will kill all of you. And that the military is not biased, it's very, very biased what is going on in the north. I've said it more than once. So what he only had a few days ago is that people should arm themselves and defend themselves. He was saying implicitly that the government has failed to protect the people. Kuka took it from there. Kuka too is a northern Christian, a very articulate and vocal man of God who has put various governments on their toes. And he came out with an instant message that the government is not doing enough to protect the people, that the economy is bad, that is misgovernance. And he told the president to be bold and take decisions. But the man has been wanting, not be pragmatic enough. So all these guys came out with their different opinions. And Atiku too, a politician, added his own. This party, the PDP. So I think the presidency is noting this, and they also reacted, even though not as usual, not as ambitious as usual. That what they are saying is noted, and the president is doing something about it.
Do you think their response was like that because of the personalities involved?
No, not necessarily.
Because we've seen them.
When
they lead the message
when Obasanjo
and attack the personalities.
They attack Obasanjo. Attack is his message. So I think the presidency realized that what these people are saying is not out of sync. It's in reality that we both feel. So they were very measured, in the way they reacted. So they will not be saying things that are not really what people want to hear.
Right. Okay, still on the front page of that Punch newspaper, there's a story there that talks about the death toll. I don't know if you saw about the building collapse. It says death toll in Lagos building collapse rises to 5, 15 rescued. Now, if you look into the details of the story, the collapse happened on the 19th of April, Saturday morning, when a partly occupied old 3-story building suddenly collapsed, leaving 2 dead and 12 survivors rescued. Now, this is coming barely 5 days after a story building under construction collapsed at Agarawu Street off Aroloyak Central Mosque, Idumota, Lagos Island. 2 males were rescued from that incident. So, according to the story here, the report from this one is that the ground floor was used by an eatery. The other 3 floors were unoccupied. And part of the reason they're giving for the collapse is the fact that it was unoccupied. They're saying that unoccupied buildings are prone to collapse because over time it weakens, they fail the integrity test. But my worry in this story is this is not the first time we're hearing of building collapse. Other countries, their buildings are collapsing because of earthquakes or natural causes. Our buildings are just there. Before you know, building tumbles to the ground. A building they are erecting collapses. Remember the 21-story building collapse in Ikoyi? Exactly. Ikoyi? So we've had different...
Before Ikoyi, that was Lekki.
There's even another one that happened at Ebute Meta.
Yeah.
Before you know, we hear the developers have fled.
Yeah.
So how do we nip this situation? Because it is a problem that I really don't know where to lay the bulk of the blame at. Is it the developers? Is it the government, the building control agency that is giving the approval? Is it the fact that they're not being able to monitor? Because some of the reasons we hear is that they gave approval for 1 story. The people went and built 3-story buildings.
Or is it managing materials because of the economic realities?
We have said it all. Are you asking the question or passing the comment?
Engineer lawyer.
Because you have said it all.
Because I'm like, so I think
you have said it all because I was in government.
Yes.
As a spokesperson of the governor of the state. And I can tell you emphatically that the various government in the state are doing their best to make sure that students do not fall down. You know, they're doing their best. But then, there's always the leaders in terms of, you know, most of these guys are not only corrupt, they are wicked. You know, that's why you have said it all. Developers will approach these guys in the ministry or in the agency and they will connive, they collude, you know, risking the lives of innocent people. You know, so what I see, when I'm jogging, walking around in Magodo, I do it all the time. I will tell my friends, look at this building now. They will put notice there, please stop. But they will still continue and the building will not be destroyed. So what is the control agency? What are they doing? That is why I said we have said it all. The government cannot be everywhere. The commissioner of fiscal planning, when I met him, when they came in last year, or barely 20 months ago, I advised him, do the right thing. Don't spare anybody. Don't spare anybody. But we are still seeing it. What are we waiting for? There are people assigned to different zones in the state. Who is in charge of that zone, of that place in Ojodu? Has he been arrested? Has he been queried? So those are things are facing. And in Lagos,
yeah, it was a popular eatery, and then you had this skeletal structure.
Yeah.
2 floors. So that means they plan to build on it, and it's terrible. And I think that the number is conservative, and it could have been worse.
Absolutely.
Maybe because of the time of the day, the building collapsed. Just 5. Imagine if they were operating at full capacity.
I mean, they say that Lasema responded, so that's part of the report we're getting, that Lasema responded and responded promptly. So I think we should give kudos to them, you know, for that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move away from that to our next paper. And just to mention to our virtual audience, if you're watching and you'd like to share your thoughts on any of the stories, please feel free to call and lend your thoughts to any of the stories that we've discussed and that we're discussing this morning. The numbers to call are on your TV screen. Let's now go to the Punch newspaper, and I find it very interesting to see that just on the front page of the Punch newspaper, you can see the picture of Pope Francis during the Easter Mass, and he was blessing the world as part of the Holy Week celebration of at St. Peter's Square in the Vatican on Sunday. And this, of course, was done before his official passing. Once again, just to say that our hearts go out to, you know...
Just shows you the kind of person the man was.
Even in his dying moments, he was...
Even in his dying moments, he came out. We were able to see him. You know, and just yesterday, too, he met the U.S. Vice President and his family. It not shows you the kind of person, kind of greatness that the man imbibed, that he exhibited by person.
Right. So yes, we definitely are sending our best thoughts, prayers, and wishes to Christians, and not just Christians, people around the world who will be mourning his passing. Because yes, he was a Catholic Pope, but he wasn't just he was a human being first before a Catholic Pope, and could relate to all and sundry. But let's look at the front page of the Punch. The big story: interest boom. 9 local banks generate 14 trillion naira from loans. Emergency. PDP governors get Supreme Court hearing date this week. Presidency pushes back as Bakare Kuka criticized Tinubu's policies. Killings. Shetima visits Plateau today as Danjuma calls for self-defense. Power crisis. Federal government turns to banks for $23 billion lifeline. Indebted retirees risk losing homes, says federal government. That's a story I'm hoping we can look at. Judgment analysis. Report me to LPDC Falana this wiki. State police off agenda as NEC meets on Thursday. I don't have the exact details, but indebted retirees risk losing homes, says federal government. I'm going to look online to see if we can get more details on that story. But let's also quickly look at the front page of the Daily Independent. And on the front page of the Daily Independent, debt servicing costs may crowd out capex development rate spending as Nigeria's domestic stock debt rises to 70.4 trillion. And SEC warns social media influencers against and bloggers against promoting unregistered investment. Serap drags federal government to court over ban on Idris' song, Tell Your Papa. I want you to speak on that.
The only thing is that you can be sure that Serap will go to court.
I mean, it's their bread and butter.
To challenge anything that is that they find to be an injustice. So I like that body. You know, young lawyers,
should be
young lawyers, brilliant guys, you know, consistent activists. You know, and I like the way they go to court to test these things, you know. But I'm not too happy that most of the litigations are not coming out well. They're not coming out well. But it's good to test the system.
But is it right, the court, let's look at the message, you're dragging the court. Court is saying NBC barred Idris Abdulkarim's song, Tell Your Papa, because of the lyrics where he directed the song to President Sonshei Tinubu, saying you should tell the father that he's not done a good job. You're basically letting him know that your father is not the best president in the world. And now NBC has said that that song is not to be broadcast. Do you think that NBC was well within their rights to have done that?
I don't know the law. I don't know the law. I'm not a lawyer. But as a Nigerian, as a citizen, and a journalist, I think it was a bad judgment. You know, the bad judgment. You don't squeeze the system. You don't want to appease your principal.
Yeah.
By doing things that are undemocratic, things that are unconstitutional, things that does not is a variance with the rule of law. You know. So I think by so doing too, they make the song very popular. That today it is becoming more relevant. Something that was already behind the curtains, you know. So I think it was good for Idris. Indirectly, it was good for Idris, you know. But to our democracy, to the atmosphere of free speech, is in bad judgment.
I mean, this is not the first time. I'm sure Idris is used to being banned. 2012. Jaga Jaga was banned,
yes.
But then
he did Jaga Jaga Reloaded under Tinubu, but it didn't catch fire because under Buhari, because Buhari's son didn't.
And I'm very sure that if not for the government intervention, NBC intervention, unnecessary, one-timely intervention, this song will be so popular.
Habib Aruna, thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We, of course,
Easter once again.
Happy Easter.
Thank you.
They say that a number of our Muslim brothers ask, when are we getting, please, who is doing party? And then the response is, this is not the big one. You know, that's how our Easter brothers say. This is not the big one. Please, anyone who has food, invite us. So anyway, let's move away from the conversations with the papers this morning as we bring you Which Way Nigeria Now.
Here we go again. The collapse of CBEX has left thousands of Nigerians with nothing but empty pockets and broken dreams. And yet, here we are, once again, falling for the same old scam. So let me ask, how many more times are we going to play this game? How many more times will we line up like eager sheep, ready to be fleeced by the next get-rich-quick scheme that promises the world and delivers nothing? Let's get the record straight. CBEX wasn't just some unfortunate mishap. It's the latest in the long list of frauds that have been bleeding Nigerians dry for years. But here's the real outrage. It's not just the fraudsters. It's the regulators, the SEC, CBN, NFIU, and NICOM. They're the ones who are supposed to protect us, yet they've been doing nothing while Ponzi schemes continue to thrive. The real issues here goes beyond just fraudsters or regulators. It's about the mindset. A survey by PwC found out that 32% of Nigerians are drawn to get-rich-quick schemes. It's concerning to think that so many are lured by the idea of instant wealth, often overlooking the risk and red flags. We're so eager for quick success that we tend to ignore the fact that no legitimate business can promise the kind of returns these scammers offer. It seems we've become more focused on luck and windfall, sometimes ignoring the reality of the situation. The CBEX collapse should be the wake-up call we've all been waiting for. But will it be? Will we continue to pretend that this is just a one-off, or will it finally admit that our system is broken and demand better? It's time for regulators to stop being reactive and start being proactive. The Securities and Exchanges Commission, the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit need to stop issuing empty statements and actually protect the millions of Nigerians they failed time and time again. The time for change isn't tomorrow, it's now. Good morning, Nigerians.
And there you have it. From CBEX, we'll be going to another one if care is not taken, and we do hear that there are many more. But for us here on Breakfast Central or News Central, it's been a fantastic start to a new working week. And like we always say, for those in the broadcast journalism world, while you're at home enjoying the break, we're here, we're working, and I'm sure Mr. Rona too is used to.
How do you used to feel on public holidays when you have to work?
No, I'm a journalist. There's no holiday.
Exactly.
I'm a journalist, I'm a businessman. So I'm busy 24/7.
No sleep for the weekend.
But you see, I enjoy doing something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, you won't feel it if there's passion.
It keeps you going. And I enjoy it.
Every time people ask me when we're working on public holiday, my answer to them is always no sleep for the weekend.
All of you deserve a fantastic Easter. And
thank you.
As we celebrate Easter, I will buy you 1 or 2 boiled egg.
Yeah, very dry. And I just want to give a special shout out to our HR and the management of News Central for showing up and deciding to celebrate Easter for us. We put a passionate love letter to HR and they responded. News Central is an organization that pays attention.
A great place to work.
A great place to work. They listen with
best HR in the world.
So thank you so much. We're expecting our Easter goodies. We'll be wrapping up the show today. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. I am Olive Emodi.
And I am Joe Hansen. Thanking you for watching.
I am Benga Bro, and this is Habib Aruna, our senior colleague.
Have a good day, everyone, and happy Easter. See you tomorrow. Bye.